We're here with Locke Spencer. Locke, thanks
Hi.
for coming on the show.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, we are anticipating another big municipal election coming up on Monday, and we're hoping that lots of people come out and vote. But first, we want to kind of get to know you a little bit. Tell us, where did you grow up?
I grew up in southern Alberta. I moved 8 times before I finished grade 12. I was born in Cardston. I've lived in Vauxhall, Edmonton, Lethbridge, Bow Island, Stirling, Calgary. And I've gone to 4 different schools in Lethbridge: Fleetwood Bodden, Nicholas Sharon, Hamilton Junior High, and LCI. And I have attended the University of Lethbridge in the physics department, and that's where I'm employed now.
So, obviously, we know each other, and you spent some time in Edmonton, right?
Yep. I did engineering degree at the U of A. Started in 1996 and I finished in 2003. And I extended my program a bit. I took 2 years off as a missionary. I did an 8-month co-op job when my degree didn't have a co-op program, so I was kind of out of phase a semester, and I took a bunch of extra classes, and one of them was actually astrophysics, and that got me where I am today. An elective class I didn't need for my degree totally changed the course of where I was going.
So, at the first, when you started your degree, you didn't know that that's what you wanted to be in, was astrophysics?
Not at all. I wanted something that could get me a job after 4 years, so I did engineering. And I didn't know that 10 years later, I'd still be in school. And there you go.
Was there like a point that you remember that was the point when you knew astrophysics, boom, I want to go that direction?
I was down here actually working for several months as an undergrad student before starting a master's program. And I had no idea my fortune. I'd stumbled into this gold mine. Basically, I walked into a space project with the European Space Agency, and they shipped me over to England to work in the lab that was testing all the spaceflight hardware before they launched it into space. And all of this because of the program at Lethbridge was well established for many decades. But I didn't know this, and I'm just thrilled to be part of it. And even today, we're leading Canada in participation in several international projects. And you can't do that just anywhere in the world. And that's Lethbridge.
I do know a little bit about that because when I was in university, you happened to just be in Cambridge, is that, or Cardiff? That's where you were. You were in Cardiff?
I was in Cardiff after my degree. I was in Oxford when you were a student with David Naylor.
Okay, so the way our lives intersected in a way there was I was in an astronomy class with Gord Falconer.
Yep.
And he had mentioned in the class that there was an opportunity for an independent study. And so I went and I interviewed Peter
Imhoff.
Peter Imhoff, yes, Peter Davis Imhoff. And amongst a bunch of other interviewers, I got the position, and it ended up being an independent study where I got credit for it, and I ended up dropping that astronomy class, and I used your office, and that's how come I knew that you were in Europe doing something cool with the European Space Agency. And that's how I knew about the Big Herschel Space Observatory, was because I was this guy who was supposed to tell people about Herschel Space Observatory. So we created some little picture things for scouts, and we went to the astronomy or the observatory down in Popson Park. And anyways, it was an interesting.
You were involved in the public outreach. You developed some of the educational materials for school-age children and for other school groups, and I think they shipped those kits out to libraries and schools and anyone who asked. And it was just getting the word out, because I don't think people think Lethbridge and they think the hub of aerospace sector, and we're a small group, but we do what we do well.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing, and I think it's important that people know about it, right? So, on to the election. At what point in your life did you feel like you wanted to be on the school board?
Well, I have kids in the school system, and my wife's expecting in the end of November, so I'm in the school system for the next 18 years for sure. And one of the main driving factors is we go in and take the kids in the mornings, and you have a chat with the teachers, and you see how things are going and everything, and just you get to know the teachers, and you know how much they love their job, and they love their students, your kids, my kids, and you just really love them for that, for their passion and their engagement. And they talk about some of the challenges they have and some of the things that could be made easier. And you know, there was a day, I think it was in April of this year, when one of the teachers we were talking with, and we said, well, what can we do to help? And they said, well, you know what, you can run for school board. And that sort of planted the seed. And I'll be honest, I think it planted it in my wife's mind a bit more than mine. And because that kept coming up and coming back in conversation, and we thought, you know, that actually we could do that. And so certainly my wife has been very supportive, and I thank her for all that she's done, and I wouldn't have near the campaign that I do without her effort.
For sure. I saw she on Facebook yesterday, she took a picture of you marking some papers, and then she shared that, and that like pricked everyone's hearts, and it had, when I shared it, there was 23 shares at the time, and I don't know where it's at now, but I mean, it was like great, you know what I mean? Like there was that feeling of like, this guy he's working hard, you know, he's working hard and he's still willing to work hard for you, you know, and I thought that was very effective.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that's what her plan was at the time. She just gets the camera out and does things sometimes. and she said, no, don't smile for this picture, just keep doing what you're doing. So I ignored her and carried on, and then the next morning she emailed me and said, I wanted to post this. What do you think? And at first I got a little bit teary-eyed because I didn't, you know, it was a very sweet thing that she said.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then I thought, oh no, what if one of the student IDs is in the picture? That's a privacy violation. So I had to check the picture that you couldn't tell who the students were that I was marking. And then once
what mark they were getting.
Well, that too. And luckily I'd put the pages face down after I marked them, so that wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
And but just getting my exams marked from the week before and trying to get them back for my class the next day. And there is a bit of difference between what I think I taught and what shows up on the test. But it actually was interesting. I mean, I have a rapport with the class, and the one student actually came to my office after class and said, oh, I think I got the lowest mark in the class. I want to apologize for that. And I thought, well, you know, just apologize by doing better next time. But we actually had a good chat, and he kind of shared some of his concerns and some of the changes that it is going from high school to university. And I think that's something that you don't always appreciate. And maybe we can do a better job in the school system of making sure that our students are, in fact, ready for university when it comes.
That's a very good point. Talking about planting seeds, the planting of the seed of the idea of being on the school board. In my situation, it was in 2012 that we were at a family get-together, and we were talking about the school system, and there was like, someone should run on the school board. Like someone needs to be on the school board. This is a very influential position. And I'm like, I thought about that over the next few months, and I think I have the skills and abilities to be able to go and communicate to parents, and then go and represent and stand up for specific things on a school board. And so, you know, you plant that seed and then you act on it, and there's just a feeling that's right? Yeah. And when you keep on pursuing it, even though I didn't get in that time, like I still felt like I won, you know, like I came in 8th, one position off, but it still felt like I did something good.
And you were only about 200 votes shy of getting in.
It was 290 votes shy of getting in. And at that time, I didn't do any campaigning. I had 36 signs, and that is all, you know. And so I was like, man, I think I might be able to do this. I think this time around, though, like we have 16 candidates running, not 22, but I think the candidates are a lot stronger. I think there's more people who can appeal to specific people. There's a lot of them who can be like, that guy's strong, that guy's strong, that guy's strong, that guy's strong, you know. In my mind, there's only a specific few who I think would be awesome on the school board, you know. But I do think it's a tighter race, and I'm very excited to see what happens on Monday.
Yeah, that'll be really exciting. So apart from the different numbers of candidates running, what are the key differences that you see this campaign round versus 4 years ago?
I think that maybe last time there were very strong candidates, but the formats that the forums were presented in were both very similar in format. The first one was the ATA one, which was held at Luigi's conference room, and there was a bunch of pizza there, and it was kind of a round table discussion. And so the candidates were given 5 minutes at a table, and then the teachers would move to your table and they would just ask you specific questions. And so that's how that went. And then the parent one was at the Vic Park gym, and it was the same sort of concept where it was just like, yeah, it was a very similar format. And this time around, the format obviously was different, where there was more like, here's the candidates and here's the questions, you know? And so maybe based on the format, I got to know these candidates more because I was able to hear their positions. But I do think that I don't remember seeing people like you, people like Christine Light, and I mean Christina Larkin's strong, Holly Tarasewicz, like people who have really good ideas and really bold personalities. I don't remember them being there last time. You know, there was a few, but I just don't remember it feeling as like competitive.
So how have you approached the campaign differently this time? You mentioned that last time you didn't really do any campaigning, you didn't have any signs apart from a couple dozen. What else is different for you in terms of your strategy? I
think that, well, last time I did do one little video that I put on YouTube. I'm a lot more active on Facebook than I was before. Maybe that's because there's more people on Facebook and there's more of dialogues going on between candidates and parents. I think I have way more signs this time. I'm way more, I'm spending a bit more money this time from a marketing standpoint. So I think that do I want it more this time? I don't know. I'm kind of just like, I just remember that good feeling that I had the time in 2013, and so I'm just pursuing that good feeling again. And if I don't get in, I know that I'll still feel good about it, and I'll know that I lost out to really good qualified people. I do hope there's change, though. I do hope there's change. There's got to be change. There's got to be more parental representation on the school board, and I think that there's a lot of good candidates who can be that change.
Yeah, and for me, I think this is my first time running, and if you told me I'd be running a year ago, I wouldn't have believed you, because it just wasn't on the radar. Obviously, I care about the school, and I want my kids to do well, and I want to, you know, the whole atmosphere and environment there, I want to be supportive and conducive to everybody to get a good education. But I thought my role was, okay, you know, I'm good at science, I'm in physics, I'll come and talk to the kids about what I do and share my enthusiasm and my gratitude for the opportunities Lethbridge has given there. But I didn't really see it on the other side. And it was about a year and a half ago that our VP Research actually invited me to go up to Edmonton for a series of meetings where we helped to decide on a provincial strategy for research and investment in science. And so I drive up to Edmonton and I find this building downtown, and I walk in this room and it's all these deans of this and that from these other universities, and then there's me from Lethbridge. And I think, well, what am I doing here? But it was actually a really, really neat process. And so that, and through a couple other committees and different things, I've kind of had I've gotten the opportunity to see that side of things. And I mean, I'm super attention to details kind of a guy. When I'll take something, I'll laser in on it. And I think that brings a good perspective to things, and in terms of policy and thinking different perspectives and thinking how this affects this group, how this might affect that group. I think that it's good. You want attention to detail, and part of my job is to try and predict how things could go wrong or how things could break. Something's in space, you can't go out there and fix it. You need to have thought of that in advance.
Yeah.
And I know from experience that there's things that if you didn't think about, it can take a long time to fix them.
For sure.
After the fact, then if you've thought about it and kind of put it through its paces, then you're prepared and you're ready.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with the fact that we need more people who can do that on the board, not just a bunch of educators, you know, people who bring different perspectives and bring different expertise, because just because you're not a teacher or a former principal doesn't mean you can bring a ton of extremely valuable, wealthy knowledge to a school system, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing that I look at, there's some people that are retired from the school system, and now they kind of know what their experience was, and they want to bring that to the table, and I think that's great. And you know, they can treat this almost like a full-time job.
Yeah, for sure.
Unfortunately, that's not my position. I won't have the time to dedicate, you know, 50 hours a week to this. But the time that I do have, I'll pay attention and I'll do the best I can.
Yeah.
And so that, again, brings a different perspective, and I hope I'm able to offer that.
Yeah. No, I think you will be able to, and I hope we both get the opportunity to. I don't obviously bring the rocket scientist perspective, but I do bring my skills and abilities to be able to bring people and ideas together, and that itself I know is a big skill.
Yeah.
I think that it's very exciting for this election on Monday.
So some people have the concern that municipal elections have a lot of apathy. What do we need to do to get people to turn out and vote?
I think that here's an idea that came to my mind after that. I went to a forum last Wednesday, October 4th, and they were talking about how to get more kids out to vote, because voter turnout last time was like, what was it, 14,000 people or something like that?
Something, yeah.
It was not good at all, and obviously the city is concerned about that. How do we get our kids to feel like they are making a difference? Well, what came to my mind is I'm involving my kids in the, hey, girls, who should I vote for city council? Like, do some research, like, give me some input, because I will value that input, and so that specific idea I'm pursuing, but I don't know. What about you? What do you think?
Well, along a similar vein, there's one of the Nicholas Sharon teachers that actually contacted me and said, hey, you're running, congratulations. We're doing a mock election in our class.
Oh, was that Spencer?
That was Woodcock, I believe.
Spencer Woodcock. Stephen Woodcock. Yeah. He emailed me too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And he said, we want the kids to know what's going on, and we don't want paragraphs, but if you could summarize in a few sentences what you stand for, we'll go through that with the kids, and then we'll have a fake vote. And I got back, and he was very appreciative that, as a parent in the Nicholas Sharon area with kids at Nicholas Sharon, that I'd be engaged in the process, the level that I am.
Yeah.
And, going door to door and talking to people, some say, oh, I don't have kids, so I don't need to worry about school. I'm not sure I agree. And I tell them that. I said, well, you're still in the city. It's still a school board. There's still people being educated and going into the workforce, and it's our community.
It influences it in a big way.
And we want everybody to have opinion. I personally feel that there's no reason we shouldn't have 80% voter turnout.
Yeah.
And I would much rather you come to the polls and spoil your ballot if you don't know who to vote for, than to just not show up.
Not show up. I think the city, though, this time, I think they maybe learned their lesson from last time, because they are being way more proactive in, like, hey, you're not going to come on the Monday? Well, we're going to come to you. They have the mobile voting stations, and I've known a lot of people that have been utilizing those mobile stations. Today I saw it in the Safeway parking lot. But to go back to your question about how to kind of overcome this apathy that is existing in the air, I know that my daughter Claire, her school did the same thing, and so I think that these teachers are, starting to plant the seeds of democracy into their minds, and I think that it's also, up to the community and up to the parents and families to really help their kids understand that we have an influence. So I wanted to ask you, the forum number 2, the parent council forum, what did you think about that forum?
I really enjoyed it. The forum on the Monday night, which was the teacher association-led forum, felt very canned. I mean, I was very happy to be participating in it, and I'm glad that they took the effort to do it.
Yeah.
But the questions were announced well in advance, and I think kind of anyone can sort of prepare a statement and really polish it up.
Yeah. And
it's good in that allows people time to prepare and really present themselves for the best. And so there's certainly room for that. But the forum they had for the open public forum, where we didn't know what the questions were coming, really gives you a chance to kind of see off the cuff what people are thinking and how they react to things. And I quite enjoyed it. Now, obviously, not being an incumbent, my experience is less, and there's some things that I can't talk to the same as the incumbents can. But it was good fun.
Here's kind of the point that I want to make, is that when that lady I mean, I know her name, but I won't mention it here. But when she asked that question to the existing school board, when she was like, "Hey, why did you guys sign this contract?" Mm-hmm. And then there was the answer given. I kind of wish that there'd be more of a dialogue type thing, an opportunity for people to be like, "You didn't answer my question," you know, like, because I don't think that the answer to that question was really fair. It didn't really make that much sense, you know. It was a lot of like, well, because the answer wasn't the answer like, well, we feel like we needed to re-sign the superintendent because we were the ones who hired her and evaluated her. That's basically what the answer was,
yeah.
Right?
So I mean, just to paraphrase, the question basically said that the current school board passed a motion to renew the contract for our superintendent effective August 2018, so well in advance of the 6-month requirement that the contracts have. Mm-hmm. And it was stated, but the incumbents that responded never really addressed the fact that they tried to do that earlier on this year, mm-hmm. and when the public got wind of it, they didn't really like the sound of it. It seemed out of place, and actually Minister Egan contacted the school board and said, "What are you doing? This is raising concern. Think
mm-hmm.
about this." Mm-hmm. And so they tabled it, and then they very quietly put it on the agenda for the meeting in September, end of September, the last meeting before the election. There was no discussion at the meeting. I was at that meeting, mm-hmm. and there was no acknowledgement that that was controversial in any way. It was just, we hired the superintendent. We are in the position to evaluate her. We need to do this before the new board gets in. They won't be able to evaluate somebody. And really, August 2018, that's well down the road. Probably it's not the thing you're going to do the first week you're in, mm-hmm. but there's plenty of time to be up to speed. And irregardless of whether the superintendent's doing good or not, the optics are just bad. Mm-hmm. So really, give them a chance. They're elected people. They're put there by the public.
That's one of the jobs that they're set out to do, is to hire the superintendent and evaluate her, you know, and I think that that's a very unfair thing to do.
And it's a 4-year election cycle, and it's a 5-year renewal, a year in advance. So that handcuffs the entire mandate of the new school board into the following one.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, I'm glad parents got wind of it, but I wish there was more kind of media that says, hey, this is what's going on. But you know, when these people who I think who are on the board are very, you know, they're influential people, and they've been in the system for a long time, stuff like this kind of gets swept under the rug.
Well, the thing that surprised me about that as well is that only a very small number of incumbents bothered to respond to that question. At that forum, you had opportunity to respond to questions that were not your own.
Yeah.
And every incumbent sat there at that table should have had the courage to stand up and say their piece about it.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
No.
And there's a Facebook forum that asked in more detail basically the same question. And there's very little that the incumbents have had to say about this. And if they're responsible to the public, and if they're quite satisfied with their actions, then they should be able to stand up to them quite easily. But they haven't.
Do you think, Locke, that perhaps the reason why there has been a lack of dialogue coming back from them to say, hey, this is our reasoning, because these are the people who are on the board, they are the educators, they are the administrators, they know what they're talking about, so we're not going to listen to the public anymore? Do you think that there's an element of that going on?
It has that feel to it, certainly, but it's worse than that in the sense that it's not just the public they don't want to hear. They've changed the policy such that they don't even need to consult the teachers on these evaluations. Which, the day-to-day actions of a school system revolve around the teachers. I mean, it revolves around the students, primarily. Students are everything. No students, you don't have any schools. But the teachers are all the machine components that make everything go and happen and succeed. And so to remove the requirement to actually ask the teachers how things are going is just ridiculous.
I completely agree with that, and I like your breakdown of that. I thought, my opinion of the forum was the way that they had everyone sat sitting was obviously randomly selected. I was randomly selected to be at the very end of things, and so just so happens that I was also the first one to be asked some of the questions. And so obviously the questions weren't known beforehand, and so when I got asked some questions, my mind just was like, and I had to answer because I only had a minute, right? And so I kind of felt like, well, not kind of, I totally felt like unprepared on a lot of these things where my mind just like, I just spoke, and I didn't think that my answers were that thorough. But when it came on the other side, when there was 15 candidates speaking before me and answering the questions before me, I had way more time to process and articulate an answer in a way that was, oh, this guy does know what he's talking about, you know? So I did feel embarrassed on a
Well, it's a bit of a balance. When you're first to speak,
yeah,
no one else has already said it. So,
yes.
So you get the chance that it's very clear that it's your thoughts and your ideas. And yeah, some of the questions I think were very relevant, and it wouldn't be difficult for anyone to have an opinion on them. Others certainly were geared more towards people who have more familiarity with the inner workings. I mean, if you're an incumbent and you pay attention to what's going on, which I believe that all the incumbents do,
yeah,
you could quite intelligently and easily say a good response to some of these things. Whereas as an outsider not inside the system, some things might be assumed, and probably you have good ideas and good instincts towards how things go, but perhaps less confidence to know, oh, this is exactly how it is, not just this is how I think it is.
yeah.
But the other thing is the school board meetings are public. I mean, they have in-camera sessions where it's just the board, but there are people, and that's actually one of the things that's impressed me about Holly T. For the last several years. She's
gone to
these
the meetings. Yeah, for sure.
And so, you know, they're engaged. I pay attention, and I have participated at my local school.
Yeah.
My familiarity with some of the other schools is less, and of course I'll try to change that as I'm on the school board.
You're on the board, yeah. The final question before we end this nice interview is one word, characteristic that you bring to the table, and why?
That's a good question. I'll wait for the other 15 candidates to get through and then come up with a name. One word, what I bring to the table, perspective, I suppose, because I know I'm unique. And that can be good or bad, but I'm thrilled with the opportunities that my education thus far has provided to me, and because of that, I might see things a little bit differently than some others. And I think certainly we want diversity on the board. We want people to think about all these different groups and how things affect everybody to make sure that it's best for everybody, not just best for some. And so certainly I'll try my best to bring that to the table.
Awesome. I agree with that. My word, and it's the same word I used in the forum number 2 was collaboration. But we didn't get an opportunity to say why, right? Yeah. The reason why I say collaboration is because I do have the ability to communicate with people very, very well. And I also have the ability to bring lots of ideas within a group and being able to bring those together in a very effective way, similar to how a project manager does something, right? And so I do feel like that's kind of my role is to bring people together and to communicate with the parents very well. So collaboration is my word.
Now, I said synergy at the forum, and I stand by that, and I'm happy about it. It's a nice word.
I love synergy. It's one of the 7 habit steps.
But the teacher who was bringing the mic back and forth, after I said it, he looked at me and said, "Scientist," and rolled his eyes. And I thought that was quite amusing. I'm not sure if that was good or bad.
Interesting.
So did you get any direct feedback from the mic carrier?
The mic carrier? Mic carrier said nothing to me.
Oh, wow.
The mic carrier was mute.
So I appreciated that. I thought that was good. Well, and hats off to him. I mean, he was there the whole night, and he was there the night before at the teachers' forum, and it's great for those people to put that on because, you know, that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and it's done all in the name of democracy, right? Trying to help people understand who these candidates are and what they stand for.
Yeah, and it's very helpful, I think, that they recorded it and streamed it, and you can look after the fact. And I'm not sure how many views it's had.
I was just going to ask, do you know how many views it has? I don't know how many views.
I think
wonder.
a lot.
A lot. Okay.
Well, I mean, what does a lot mean? I mean,
I don't know.
For my website, a lot is probably 10. But no, it's a great service that's done. And so thanks certainly to all those who've organized the forums and helped raise awareness.
Absolutely. I echo that sentiment. But I want to thank you for coming down to the basement here and having a nice chat about the election coming up and about yourself and what you bring to the table. But we hope all of you have enjoyed listening to this audio cast.
Yeah, and good luck on the election yourself, Dave.
Thank you very much.